Hi, this is Jenny Kiffmeyer, and I'm an ERISA attorney at the Retirement Learning Center. Welcome to our regular segment on Case of the Week. This week's case relates to revenue sharing in a 401k plan. As a reminder, these are real-life cases drawn from calls to our consultants on the resource desk from financial professionals all over the country. Our question today relates to how to use revenue sharing in a 401k plan. And our question is, in particular, if a 401k plan allocates revenue sharing payments to participant accounts, what is the prescribed method they use? Revenue sharing is a common but declining practice in 401k plans. It is a way that mutual funds and investment providers compensate third-party service providers in 401k plans. Revenue sharing dollars offset plan expenses. So, for example, if a plan contracts to pay an annual fee of, say, $20,000 to one or more service providers and receives revenue sharing or credits of $2,000, the amount paid by the plan is only $18,000. Plan fiduciaries must follow a documented, prudent process in determining how to handle revenue sharing payments if they exist. If the plan document specifies how the revenue sharing is to be used, the fiduciaries have to follow the terms of the plan unless it would be imprudent to do so. If the document is silent on revenue sharing, plan fiduciaries could decide to use the payments to pay plan expenses and or allocate the revenue sharing to the accounts of plan participants. Now, the number of plans that use revenue sharing is steadily declining, and that's likely because of the emphasis on fee transparency. According to a Callan study, 39% of sponsors surveyed said they were likely or very likely to begin rebating revenue sharing payments to participants. And there's really three ways that you can reallocate those dollars to participants. One would be under a pro rata formula, which gives a percentage of the payment per participant in proportion to their account. There's a per capita formula, and that means that the individual would receive the same dollar amount as everyone else in the plan. And then there's the equalization method. This revenue sharing arrangement would be allocated to those participants that are investing in the respective plan and not to those who are not in that particular fund. With equalization, participants who invested in a fund that paid more in revenue sharing than the record keeper charged in administrative fees would receive a credit for their plan account, while the participants invested in the funds with no revenue sharing would receive a debit for their share of record-keeping fees. Now, the DOL doesn't give us any specific guidance on revenue sharing payments, but it does say that they must follow a particularly prudent process. And that process for determining how revenue sharing is allocated must be, first of all, deliberative and documented. It must weigh the competing interests of various classes of participants and the effects of various allocation methods on those interests. It has to be carried out solely in the interest of plan participants. It has to bear a reasonable relationship to the services being provided to the participants. It has to avoid conflicts of interest, and it has to include a rational basis for selecting the method. So again, it's a fiduciary process that must be prudent. So in closing, while there is no preferred method for allocating revenue sharing payments among participants, plan fiduciaries must follow a documented, prudent process to determine how to handle the payments if they exist, taking into account several key characteristics and considerations. As a plan financial advisor who works with fiduciaries and determining how to allocate revenue sharing payments, you can play a pivotal role. If you are looking for a more in-depth written version of this case, you can find it on our website at retirementlc.com. Thank you.